Alright guys, welcome back to Designing Hero Concepts for your games. My name is Lollybop, and we're going to be talking about Mafia factions and the use of Mafia factions, especially in futuristic games where it normally doesn't make sense. Let's begin. So of course, a table of contents, we're going to be introducing mob tactics and mob running and businesses, especially building story of a mob in a futuristic game setting. We're also going to be looking at the ability set of my Mafia character for my game. One of them, I have several, but this is just an example. We're going to talk about the story building, how you build a story around a mob in a city, especially using tragedy and using the threat of war to keep your city, to make a profit, as my character does. Then we're going to focus on the stats and, of course, organization of those stats. So let's get into it. So first, I want to talk about Mafia, using Mafia as a theme overall. It is very hard to do in futuristic games because Mafia is more of a traditional setting, as it's supposed to be just a generic family trying to run businesses as fronts for their illegal operations while also trying to control their territory and keep other families away from their goods. Of course, in futuristic games we do see some aspects of the Mafia via cyberpunk, as they do have a criminal underbelly underneath the city that is trying to secure and control the population by offering them gifts and flashing lights and flashy distractions to hide away the fact that a small group of families and individuals control the entire world. Now, of course, this does make it seem possible to put them in futuristic settings, and what I'm about to show you is that it is possible to have a futuristic character, a futuristic Mafia. You just have to be creative. So let's look at Don. Very general name. If you're wondering what his name comes from, if you've never watched a Mafia movie or any Mafia TV series, Dons are the head of the family. They're usually called Godfathers in the movie just because that's what people assume when they think of heads of families, of Mafia families. But in Mafia movies, when they're at discussions, they're usually called Dons. As for example, as you can see here with the Godfather picture here, Don Corleone. That's just his mob name because he's the Don, head of his household. Now, if we look at his ability set, he is low aerial, meaning that he does have a flying ability. His passive flying muscle basically whips out a jet suit out of his blood red suit, Mafia suit. So, of course, if he wants to make a quick getaway, trying to escape the police, or, just escaping an assassination attempt by other mob members on himself, he can just fly away using his flying muscle suit. His primary is a quad-barreled pistol that does 25 damage with 50 damage crit damage if it gets a headshot. It has a fire rate of 1, it does fire only 1 bullet per second, but since it is a quad-barreled pistol, it does fire 4 bullets instead of just 1, as firing it once doesn't fire just 1 barrel, but all 4, meaning it has a DPS of 100, and of course a magazine of 20, meaning you can fire it 5 times before having to reload for 4 seconds. Of course, he also is a bully man. He is a fighter. He's got to be. I mean, he's a godfather. Even though he's in his old age, he's still got to be a fighter if he wants to keep control over his territory and make sure his sons know to be a strong man rather than a weak man. So he does have the bully man ability where he throws 2 haymakers for a double melee strike. He also has a power knockout ability where he can dive down from the air to melee strike the ground, striking someone on the ground while also hitting nearby allies of that enemy as well. And also, since he doesn't like to get since he is a godfather, he is naturally untrustworthy. So of course, Mr. Don will also use his primary care to heal himself, as he does not trust other people to give him any healing. Could be laced with poison, could be receiving a medical package with a pipe bomb inside, so of course he is not going to trust anyone but himself, so of course he has his own med packs he supplies for himself to heal himself, because as a godfather he has to be prepared. And of course his ultimate is a WMD. He launches a nuclear bomb from the air because of course it is cybernetic. He is worth billions and trillions of dollars. He can afford it, and of course it is a nice map wipe attack for an ultimate, meaning that not only will the player have a great time flying around, punching people and shooting them with the pistol, but also will have a natural map wipe ability, which is why even though his ultimate is quite powerful, it does have a very long charge time, meaning that it is more of a 2 time usage per game. However, now we move on to the story aspect. He's the godfather of the New York Mafia. He's the kingmaker of the new era of the Mafia and the mob activity in the city, being personally equipped to fly around the city and take care of himself due to constant mob wars that have plagued America's top cities during the afterstroke revolutions. As we talked about, using his flying muscle to avoid assassination attempts and taking care of himself to avoid poisoning attempts or possible assassination plots. Because of course, mob wars mean assassinations, and Dons are the #1 target for these assassinations. His father was killed during the third bombing of New York, which led to the building of Neo York in its place, giving him reign over the entire citywide enterprise. So you can see, he controls New York, and that means that he is quite the valued target for assassinations. And of course it shows how he inherited the family after his father was killed in the bombing of New York. Also showing you how Neo York came to be after the third bombing. It was built in the place of New York, so of course now we know why New York exists, thanks to his storyline. And finally, what we're going to do is we're going to look at Don's stats at a more technical level, looking at his abilities. So of course, we talked about this in earlier videos, but there are many types of attacks. Of course, we're going to be looking at the quad rusher. It is a manual attack because it is a pistol that fires projectiles. A manual is just a projectile weapon that is handled manually and does an auto aim. Of course, the Bully Man is the Haymaker attack, a double melee, meaning it is going to be purple because of course it is the melee designation. Flying Muscle's ability, because of course it doesn't do any damage, but it is a flight ability, so of course it's going to be given the generic gray of any generic ability. And of course, Power KO is going to follow the same thing as Bully Man, as you do 100 damage to an enemy, and then pound them into the ground to do another 50. And then of course primary care is self-healing, which is different than healing. Healing is the gold color, self-healing is the yellow color, to denote the fact that Don is healing himself, not healing others. And finally, his WMD is of course a nuclear bomb, so of course it's going to be a splash damage attack, as it is a literal nuclear bomb blowing up part of the map. And of course, if you'd like to organization this even further, you can look at Don as his hero name. His description is Godfather because he is the godfather of New York. His playstyle is dive because of course he has dive style abilities, using his flying abilities to get away, and then using his Power KO and Bully Man to dive into battle, punching people and using his pistol before flying away again. He does not have a sub-style because his only style is dive. He has an HP of 200, meaning it's 200 health points. His primary is a quad rusher, a quad barrel pistol, does not have a secondary ability. His passive is flying muscle, a flying ability that allows him to fly around, making him the aerial character that he is. He has the 3 abilities, Bully Man, Power KO, and primary self-care. His normal ability is ultimately WMD with a massive splash damage as its type. And of course he does not have a secondary ultimate because not do. But of course, that is going to be the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't, subscribe if you like the video, and comment down below your thoughts on using Mafia factions in a futuristic setting, and what you think about Don as a character overall in general, as a dive that has both melee, self-care, and of course a quad barrel pistol. And of course, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys with the next concept. Toodaloo!